My career has been a hodgepodge of different things. I just have so many interests, but professionally, for like the past decade, I've been doing marketing operations. Something that I am really into is just removing those roadblocks for marketing and creative teams so they can like push big ideas faster. I'm a creative myself, and I just found that if I could, remove obstacles from these other people that I work with that were way more talented than I was when it came to producing creative works, then I got more out of that than creating myself. And I also just don't like creating um, out of the necessity for other companies. I like to create with like free will and autonomy. So I took that portion out of it and applied my skill in creativity to operations.
Amazing. No, thank you very much. Yeah. And what career have you had? I looked at your LinkedIn profile, super impressive.
Oh, thank you.
I guess my kind of question there, Adam, is just, with your creative marketing operations experience, what's one belief that you've held that's maybe changed recently, and why?
Hmm, that's a great question. I would say, yeah, I think it's just a hot topic right now is the introduction of AI into companies and into workflows. I
Mm.
think the topic of conversation is that AI will replace jobs. It's even cringe saying that because I see it all the time and I hear it all the time, and it's just said too many times. But I look the way I look at it is that it's going to be able to optimize workflows so that people have more time to work on their creative work and more time benchmarking other companies to gain inspiration and create more innovation. That's kind of where I stand now. I'm not against it at all. I mean, there is the energy sector of how much energy it takes, but when you look at it and how it applies to how we can work better together, I think it's a game changer, and teams should be adopting it and at least experimenting and tinkering with AI on how they can operate their operations better.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you. Cheers. Darren, have you got any, before I jump in with the next question, have you got anything there that's picked your
Yeah,
brain?
I'd love to know, Adam, on the topic of AI and creative. Have you used anything of late, or have you seen an example? And it doesn't need to be a specific tool
Mhm.
per se, but like, have you seen an example where it really you were just like blown away by how much it game changed either your productivity or your ability to do multiple things, or to shed some of the
Yeah,
grunt work?
yeah, absolutely. I'm heavy on Notion. I'm a fan of Notion. I've been a fan of Notion for a long time. They've just released Notion 3.0, and the way that you can really customize your systems in Notion to anything that tailors to your business or to your teams or to your enterprise. And they also have education on how to incorporate their AI, but they're bringing also, even though they're bringing um, new technology to their platform, they're also educating. I think the education is where like I never thought about some of these things. A big topic that they talk about in their education is knowledge work, and how I interpret knowledge work is um, I don't know the name of the title or the position, but when you're shooting a series or a episode or a series or a movie, there's always that person on set that has the Bible, right? Like that, if so and so wore a pair of shoes on episode 4 in season 3, they will mark that and they will know that, so they not so not to repeat it on another episode. They just have all of the information to make sure that future seasons and future episodes are kept original. And I think that's how I look at it for businesses when it comes to knowledge work, and how important knowledge work is going to be in the future, especially with the adoption of AI. Being able to, instead of asking ChatGPT or asking the internet, you're asking an internal AI agent about your company, about the history of the company, and the sources that it will result in is all inputted by the company. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that's going to speed up onboarding. But also, if you're creating new initiatives in the company, you can, it's like the quote, if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. So if you have that knowledge work there, you can really create a database that has information that can make the whole organization better, and be aligned and locked in step.
Absolutely.
Makes sense.
And yeah, no, totally makes sense. Yeah, I like the Bible example. Yeah. I can imagine throughout your career that there might be a few products that Bible might have been quite thick.
Oh man, exactly.
Yeah. And I guess, Adam, one question I've got for you is just, are there any challenges, or what would you say the biggest invisible challenges to marketing teams this day and age? And maybe to do with AI, maybe not, but I'd love to hear your thoughts there.
Yeah, I think the challenges is I don't want to call it cancel culture. I know that is a prevalent thing now that we have so much exposure to marketing. But I think it's harder to take risks and really stick out your neck and do something different. Because when you're putting out advertising, or if you're doing any marketing, it is critiqued more than ever, more than we've ever seen. So some companies do it very well, and they say that we're going to take this risk, and we know we're not going to be able to please everybody, and that's okay. As long as we please our community, then we're fine with it. But to break into new communities or to try something different is one of the challenges I see in marketing.
Yeah, I guess it's quite a balancing act, right? To stay authentic to the brand itself, but also connect with these niche audiences and reach out to them. Any kind of practical advice on doing that for the marketers, would you say? Any pitfalls to avoid?
Yeah, and I think the larger you get as a this is just my opinion, the larger you get as a company, the harder it is to stay relatable with the community. And those brands that are just in the thick of it with community, it's a lot easier for them to be able to market something new or to innovate, because they're probably having those conversations with the communities they serve so often that it's just a natural progression of releasing some new features on an app, or doing another alternative form of marketing for a new product that's coming out. And I think it's all about being in that community as much as you possibly can. It's just harder as you get as your business grows and your audience grows as well.
Yeah, because it gets broader, so it's harder to niche.
Exactly.
Now, if you were to transport back to 2020, just before COVID hit, would there be any advice that you'd give to yourself, for a future version of yourself? In terms of marketing, operations, technology, all that good stuff. What would it be?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. If it wasn't marketing, it's probably buy a bigger house while the interest rates were good. But that's a great question. And you're saying in terms of marketing?
Yeah, or just any, in terms of like how it relates to businesses, enterprise business, to marketing, to maybe the technology or the tools that you use. You can keep it quite broad.
And technology, yeah.
Yeah, or the way that marketing's changed. We've had an explosion of social channels, etc.
Yeah, that's a great question. And the one thing that comes to mind is like during 2020 you have COVID, but you also have you can't mention 2020 without COVID, and also the movement of like Black Lives Matter. And you saw a lot of companies, post the Black Square and make these commitments. And I think it was, I think it was a lesson to, really stick to your lane and not fall for what other companies are doing. And I think some companies are still getting scrutinized because they've had so much support and they showed so much care for communities that now there's no mention of them. It's kind of being wishy-washy. It's just like stick to your lane. Like there's one company, and I won't mention the company, but there's one yeah, maybe I might mention the company, but like people were scrutinizing, REI from what I was reading for not doing anything about the Black Lives Matter movement. But at the same time, like REI has always focused on getting you outdoors and they spend a lot of money and have a lot of resources on saving the world, which includes everybody. So even as we go into 2026 and there's so many political unrest and there's a lot of things happening for companies, it's like, stick to your lane when it comes to, and it really go like, I guess to answer your question about 2020 is, if I could spend that time, if I was a company spending that time, it's like, how do we double down on what we believe in, on our values, on our mission, and what we stand for? I think companies create that when they first start, and they stick with it throughout the entirety of their existence. But I think it's also acceptable as companies evolve, as people evolve, that you revisit them, and some things may change with the times. And I think if there is a customer base that really believes in your company, and you change your values and you change your missions, I think some will stay with you and some won't. But if you and the leadership and the employees really believe in any change to the mission or values, and they're really behind it, then that trust and that belief, I think, will take your company further than trying to fit everything into old values or old missions.
Absolutely. And I think it all ties back to what you were saying about staying authentic, avoiding virtue signaling, and then kind of juxtaposed with, the enterprise businesses evolving and catering to broad demographics rather than niching. And I think it's really interesting what you're saying about, staying true to the brand. I wonder is there any kind of practical advice that you'd give to these brands as they evolve to remain authentic to themselves, to, as they revisit their core values and making sure that they're staying purposeful, etc.? Is there any recommendations on your side that, leaders such as yourself can take to do that?
Yeah, I would say tap the shoulders of your target audience, rather it be new followers or new customers or ones that have started with you from the beginning. I would just tap their shoulder and consistently ask questions, reward them for their insight and their opinion. And I think, Steve Jobs was touted for spending a lot of money on research and development. And I don't think that's a wrong idea at all. It's just like the more the more data that you collect, the more you can use that to inform how you want to innovate for the next decade.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, fantastic. Love it. It's very important to have the audience in line with what you want.
Mm-hmm.
I have a
Absolutely.
question. What do you think, Adam, makes a brand truly memorable? In 2025. With all the noise out there, what makes a brand truly memorable, and what do you think too many companies still get wrong?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the ones that are memorable for me are the ones that like put out campaigns and they advertise, and it's like kind of sticking out their neck, but they're okay sticking out their neck because they've done so much research and they validated so many times that it seems authentic as opposed to forced. One company that an average and campaign that I love is Adidas has made a shoe with Anthony Edwards, who is a top basketball player for the NBA for the Minnesota Wolves. That brand campaign is so authentic. It really seems like Anthony Edwards is able to do is able to really control his image and be himself. And I think it's shown through the marketing. And again, that's sticking out. I feel like that's Adidas sticking out their neck to be like, he's a talent. Let's do it his way. And it really seems like that.
I've got a question. Yeah, sorry. No, carry on. Sorry.
No, and just answer your question. There's also companies that will partner. I love the advertisements where companies partner with like the local hot dog shop that isn't in a corporation. Maybe like a local hot dog shop in New Jersey, and people that are locals just know that hot dog shop is just a loyal landmark in the city, and a brand recognizes it, and they see how important they are in the city, and they collaborate with them. It's not like the hot dog stand needs more validation or more popularity, but it's almost like showing respect. Like, we would love to collaborate with you because we, again, are in the community, and we know how important you are to the community, and we would love to collaborate with you on something. I feel like those ones just show that you're not just it's like beyond anything that a Google search or a ChatGPT search can ever spit out. It's one that you can only be deeply in that community to know about. I think that's what makes marketing so memorable for me.
Love it.
And you were talking earlier about 2020, and obviously there were some cultural changes.
Yeah.
How do you think brands should respond when cultural moments, or consumer expectations shift suddenly? What's your view on how a company or a brand should respond?
Yeah, I love that question because if you don't speak on one thing, then you're not speaking about like anything. Meaning that if you decide to just speak on one part of the news, then everybody's going to ask you, why aren't you speaking about other types of news? And I love it when companies, this is a lack of a better term, but like companies are like Batman, where they don't advertise what they're doing externally for a certain cause, but internally, it's a very important discussion. So when people are talking to companies saying, why aren't you talking about this? And why aren't you saying this? Or why aren't you doing something for this? Companies, I would remain silent, knowing that our employees know that this is very important to us, and the employees will talk on behalf of the company, but it's not coming from the company. I'd be more concerned about talking about like creating space. Let's talk about these current events. Let's talk about what's going on. Let's talk about how we can help. Let's even donate money to these causes, but we don't have to advertise it so much. Let news coverage find it out. If they work hard enough, they can find out what we're doing. But to say that that a company's not doing anything is okay. Like, it's almost like going home and knowing that I'm doing something, even though it's not popularized. Like, it's like Batman. You don't know where he lives, you don't know what he does, but he does very important work. And I think recently, Airbnb, when there was those fires in California, Airbnb was able to open up housing for those people that got displaced from their homes, and I love that. I saw that Airbnb advertised it, and I'm like, that's that thing. I'm like, I don't want to. That's where I'm like, I wouldn't want Airbnb to advertise that. I'd rather have news outlets advertise that, or the community talk about, like, man, Airbnb saved, like, Airbnb, we didn't have a place to live, and Airbnb opened up their home to us. Like, that, like, I guess, like, that is, termed as, like, it's user generated content. I think user generated content is the most powerful advertising tool that we have to our disposal. But to be able to get that and be authentic is like, you can almost miss the opportunity for user generated content when it's so public, when you publicize it so much. But if you let the users do it, I think it comes from such a genuine place. You're not paying them. It's not you're not paying them. It's not an advertisement. They're like, no, you genuinely helped my family, find a place. And I think I think that's to answer your question.
Yeah, amazing. I want to go back a couple of questions ago and pull a thread on what you were saying, where, that hot dog stand, and that you can't do a Google search, you can't do ChatGPT, which I think is absolutely brilliant. And I want, obviously, you worked in North Face doing the global creative operations. Mm-hmm. And what interests me there is, obviously, you're not catering to one region or one neighborhood that knows this. There's a whole plethora of countries and regions who have their own kind of niche. So I guess what I'm getting at is, how are you ensuring that the creative that you're producing is effective and resonates with the different demographics in these different regions as you're creating that content? How are you ensuring that creative is effective, that's delivering ROI, business impact, and all the growth? Because obviously, you're creating this global content, but I'm guessing you're localizing it to different regions. So I'd love to learn a little bit more about that.
Yeah. In terms of operations and working on a global team, you expect each region to be the professional and have expertise in their own region. And as a added layer of to help out with decision making on what's the best approach for each region, we had a process for consumer insights. How can we test out consumers and send them tests to say what color is best in this region, and what do you think about this ad before we release it? And I think that's an extra added insurance to be able to learn from these regions. And there's so many insights. One color in one region is not popular, or one technology in one region is not possible. Is not aligned across regions. So one region can say, feed me the tech. I want all the technology in this jacket, feed it to me. And then another region was like, I just want to know, how does it look? Like, how does this jacket fit? And what are ways that I can wear it? And where else, like, how many different uses can I get out of this jacket on more practicality? So I think that is, having consumer testing is the way to be able to make sure that each thing that you release is retrofitted for each region.
Yeah, nice, absolutely love it. And then were there kind of any kind of marketing metrics that you'd use that you'd think, oh, actually that's a bit overhyped. It's not really helping me in be curious to understand that.
Yeah, I think one thing, I don't want to say it's overhyped, but when you look at social trends, oh shit, give me 1 second. Sorry about that.
Oh, good. No worries. Do you have any other questions, Darren?
Sorry about that. My partner just left for the garage. Yeah, to answer that question, I think when you look at metrics of social trends, a lot of times you're looking at it at a very early part of the season, and that can just change. So the way that social trends change, it changes like every single week. So it's one of those things that you try to say, what are millennials into nowadays? And you get data, but that data can change literally completely in another week.
Yeah, and any tips to kind of stay on top of that, or is that just again tapping on the shoulder of the audience?
I believe it's developing processes, criteria, and an approval cadence on how to stay nimble and how to react to certain situations, but also like it's a kind of a balance of being able to have an idea for social and capitalizing on it very, very quickly while working on stuff in the background to be able to develop your own personality on social, to be able to innovate. But I think it's those processes to make sure that is available. So if you have a long list of approvers and the approvals take a long time, you can miss the opportunity to capitalize on a moment on social media. So having those kind of an escalation process and all those things would be, I think, the most helpful for teams so that they can just be on top of it. I think you look at Duolingo. Okay. And the way that like you can just tell, like it just seems natural, and the way they're able to do it so fast, and be able to be so original, I feel like they were given autonomy because they probably showed numbers of why it's working, and they were able to prove like this is where we're going and this is how we're doing it, and you see it in the way they grew their platform on social.
Absolutely, yeah. I think the whole social media team was empowered there. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
What advice, Adam, would you give a CMO who wants to unlock more value from a creative team? Sort of along the lines of what you were just talking about with Duolingo, but
that is it's an amazing question. Only because this is a conversation, like I just love creatives, and creatives, they voice their opinion about what they need and what they would like. So I wanna think about it for a second. I think in one answer,
it might be not to cut you off, but you also may think about how do creatives work with the combination of commercial goals on one side and wanting to be original and creative on the other side. So they also have to balance that, right?
Yeah, and I think I don't want to say that money, like I don't want to just throw money at them, right? But it's from my experience, it's allowing creatives to work on things that may not even see the light of day, but it allows them to innovate. It could be something that the CMO prompts a creative team to say, "Hey, think about this. Think about think about how we can do such and such." Give that to the team. Give them like a very give them a maybe extended timeline and with periodic check-ins to see where it's at, and with the expectation that we may never use this. But what I love about it is that maybe it gets the creative team to pick up new skills, to learn new software, to tinker with new products. And I feel like it's almost while working every corporate job I've ever had, I've always had a side gig. I've always had something side on the side that I worked on. But a CMO can empower a creative team and a marketing team to be able to do that with their own organization. Like let's work on this on the side. We did this again. It could be something that maybe it's something that it's over 4 years that they want to release, but always have them working on something where they're not judged, they're not criticized, they're not it's not a driver of ROI right now, but it keeps them tinkering. So, what I love about that is while they're doing their regular job and they finish a project, they're like, let me work on this other thing because I'm so interested on it. But it has to be something that they agree upon. It can't just be from the top down. It could be maybe even from the bottom up where they're saying like, there's a huge opportunity to work on such and such. Can we work on this? And give them space and a budget to be able to work on. I think that will really empower a team to have that autonomy to create something. I think everybody wants to be able to create value for a company. But if you're just doing what your job entails, then you're developing campaigns, you're just developing marketing, you're just doing what you're told to do. But if you can empower teams to create on their own and maybe even show the CMO something that they've never seen before, I think it's the cheapest ROI, in my opinion, for a CMO.
Absolutely. In
Mhm.
your opinion, what's you've worked for a loved brand. In your opinion, what's the difference between a brand that people like and a brand that people truly love? And there's probably some brands that you love yourself that you probably see the difference.
Yeah. When I think about brands that you like, I feel like it's convenience. Like it works well. And whatever I buy, like I use it a lot. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I love the brand. I'm just like, they make great products. I think when I love a brand is when I'm able to go to bats for that brand. And that could be because of what they do, their philanthropic endeavors and their philanthropic focuses. They don't have to do these things. By no means, people will still buy their products and they don't have to, but they honestly believe in a certain mission that you believe in, and I think that's what makes me really love a brand. And they especially when a brand I look at it like probably shouldn't say this, but Patagonia is a competitor of the North Face, and there's emails that I get from Patagonia that is not selling anything. And there's a lot of emails that I get. They're talking about their philanthropy. They're talking about events that they have going on in different communities, and I love it. I love that. Like that's kind of an introduction into their living room, where they're not selling me a product. Like you go into Starbucks, and there's a bunch of Starbucks products and cups and everything when you walk in there. When I walk into Starbucks, it's a business, and I understand it, but it's all transactional. And then you go into like your local coffee shop, and there's nothing else for sale. They're just there to serve you, and those are the ones that I fall in love with.
100%. Do you think that, I mean, having worked for big brands, do you think smaller brands can punch above their weight in branding and outrun or
I mean, you're
outbrand, if you will, a larger player?
you're seeing that right now. When you look at, I'm a runner, and you look at the market share that was taken away from Nike. You have all these other brands. You not only have Hoka and On, they've been in the game for a while, but they've taken so much market share. And beyond that, you have these run clubs that have turned into full-fledged brands. Run clubs, that was a run club like Satisfy Running. There's another run club that turned into a brand, I believe, in Mexico called Hermanos Kumari. And I love their brand. They are about running, and that's kind of where it stops. They also do a lot of other things, but that's also taking market share away from. I mean, you're seeing that with big marketing agencies as well. These bigger brands want, with bigger marketing agencies and bigger consultant agencies, they have a formula. Do this, and you ship it off to the customer. And I think brands are getting a little tired of that. Even though those are reliable and that you can trust on them, I think brands are taking a part of their budget to take risks on smaller advertising and consulting studios, and you start to see those smaller brands really do punch above its weight, because they're able to move so fast. And that won't happen for long, but right now they're able to move so fast, where it may take a longer time to produce a shoe for or like when it comes to producing a shoe. You have a brand again that kind of go back to our conversation earlier. We talked about your mission and your values, and you stick with them. So if you stick with those, then you can't, when you produce a new shoe, you may not be able to produce a new shoe because it doesn't fit that narrative of what the brand is. But these newer companies, they are switched. They're since they're smaller in scale, they're able to experiment. They're able to fail faster, quicker. Also be able to rebound quicker. Where these bigger brands, when they fail, it's like it's felt.
Yeah. What's a brand? An example of a brand right now outside of the industry you're in, for example, that you really admire, and what do you think makes them stand out?
This might be a surprise, but it might be a surprise of it's a company called Craig Hill. And that's the one that comes to me. Every time I see anything from their marketing, I just stop and I listen to the whole thing. They do so much storytelling. So Craig Hill makes everyday items much better. So you think about a pair of scissors, and their whole team will look at what's wrong with these scissors. And why did these scissors change? Well, the old scissors were way better. What changed, and how can we go back to when they were better, but put a modern twist on it? And they will put up. They develop these scissors that are very ergonomic. They have a ruler. They even developed a more ergonomical carabiner for your keys. And their product line is anything. That's their product line. But they just when you just listen to all the research they put into why they made their designs the way they did, it's fascinating. It's great storytelling, but it's also puts a large spotlight on when the apparel industry is called fast fashion, but in their sense it's like mass producing things, and we're just mass producing things just so that households have them. But they're and then what they sell is not entirely expensive either. They're giving out more ergonomical, more sustainable, more durable products without charging an arm and a leg. And I feel like I would love to see more companies. I think you are seeing more companies do that. They'll look at like, it could be a company making just t-shirts, and we're like, we just want you to have quality t-shirts. We don't want to do anything else. But we see that in the industry, we have way too many t-shirts that rip too quickly, or they don't last a long time. And those are my buying habits. I feel like my buying habits are like in between thrift store or something very, very, very quality. I think those are my, like things in the middle. They're not as entertaining, and not as much of a joy for me to be able to purchase. Like if I find something in the thrift store, I just get, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I found this. Or another brand that I guess another purchase that I made, and a brand that is interesting as well is I bought a pair of white boots. They've been making shoes, I believe, making boots since like I believe the 1800s. They've making that heritage story is absolutely amazing. I got some boots that were hand sewn. In the age of AI and automation, like a human, put these shoes on my feet, these boots on my feet, and put it together. Those are kind of my buying habits, and those are the brands that I'm kind of looking at. Those brands are really innovating, are just fascinating. That storytelling is amazing. So I would say Craig Hill is a company. It's probably less known than other brands, but it's a brand I'm like, I just admire what they're doing.
Yeah, be sure to check them out. Adam, have you got like some time for quick fire questions, or do you need to go?
We can do the quick fire questions. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just for the readers and the watchers of this, what's your favorite marketing book, podcast, or resource that you'd recommend?
Oof. Yes. I get a lot out of Diary of a CEO. I just get a lot out of it. The videos are like two hours long sometimes, but if I'm on a run or if I'm like cleaning my garage, I just put that on. I just learn so much from it, and I take away so much from that. Book wise, I can't think of a book on top of my head. When it comes to marketing, I am a divergent thinker. I like to think about marketing while I'm woodworking. I like to think about marketing and like while I'm doing woodworking or researching woodworking. I get a lot out of that and apply it to marketing, or rather it be going on a run. That's kind of where I get my inspiration from, as opposed to trying to study within it. I kind of look outside of it, knowing that different ways of thinking get me to think about better marketing.
Love it. And final question for me, Adam. What is the best piece of advice that you've received from a mentor or colleague that you'd like to share with us?
Ooh, yeah, that is good. I think it's more simple. There's times in my life where somebody says something and it just like completely freezes me. And it's not intentional. It's just like maybe it was just the right time or right place. A friend of mine was dropping off a friend of mine, and he just said the words, "Hey, go easy on yourself. See you later." And he shut the door. And then I was like paralyzed in my car. I'm like, it just hit me. It just really hit me when he said those words, "Go easy on yourself." So I think that's I would say that's the most recent thing that kind of advice and quote that kind of impacted me. It's not a profound quote or anything like that, but it's just a great reminder.
No, I think it is quite profound in its simpleness, because it's such a fast-paced, moving world that we live in.
Yeah, and then one other quote that I say all the time. And it really helps with innovation. It really helps me think broader and deeper. Is you've created nothing significant if it's not accessible to all.
Love it. Yeah,
love that.
Yeah, it's good. It's got my hairs on the back of my neck standing. That's great. Love it. Well, Adam, thank you so much. That was genuinely a very, very, very interesting chat, and I think people are going to love it.
Yeah, thank y'all. Thank y'all for the
Thank
time.
you.
It's been great chatting with y'all.
Yeah, I'll be in touch. We'll be in touch on next steps and get your approval and everything. But hope to have other chats like this in the future. And
Yeah, absolutely.
Keep in touch.
All right, take care.
Take care.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Adam.
No problem.
Bye.
Bye.